What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at an assets update leak. Some new information from the Pokemod group was released. It was added to the game files. They found it. They found the sprites. They found some details. So we're going to be taking a look at what exactly those details are today. Right away in the first slide, that's right, you see Mega Mewtwo X and Mega Mewtwo Y. So two brand new Megas added to the game, as well as Mega Sharpedo, Mega Audino, Mega Metagross, and Mega Camerupt. So we're going to be taking a look at all of these today and what they mean for the game. So let's take a look. So right away here, we're looking at the top raid attackers in Pokemon Go. Now typically I do focus on PvP on this channel, but I did want to highlight the strength of these Megas before we dove in. So right away you can see Mega Rayquaza at the top, but then right behind it is Mega Mewtwo Y. So this newly introduced Mega with Psycho Cut and Psystrike is going to be one of the top raid attackers in the game, and the top raid attacker for Psychic types, immediately followed by Mega Mewtwo X. So very exciting addition with this Pokemon, and even better than the Shadow form, as you can see all the way at the bottom there. Up next, we're looking at Mega Sharpedo. Unfortunately, the addition of Mega Sharpedo doesn't really have any interesting takes, just because the Shadow Mega it just outperforms the Mega when it comes to straight damage per second. So there's no real use as a raid attacker if you already have the Shadow Sharpedo built. That being said, the Mega Sharpedo could have play in the Mega Master League, but it's unlikely. It's just such a glassy Pokemon that it's not going to do great. The next one is Mega Audino. This is only going to have one use, and that is Stardust. You already get Stardust from raids, but Mega Audino on a catch, assuming it's the same as a regular Audino, will give you that bonus Stardust, which is, I think it's 2,100 Stardust. So that is pretty nice there. The next one we're looking at is Mega Metagross, and similarly to Mega Sharpedo, unfortunately, the Shadow actually has a better damage per second than the Mega. That being said, this one's a lot closer, so they're virtually interchangeable. But the Mega Metagross will absolutely have play in the Mega Master League if you plan on playing that later this season. It is the final week of the season that the Mega Master League will be available. Of course, will these Pokemon be available before then? It's unlikely. I imagine that these Pokemon are going to be introduced next season. The next Mega that we're looking at is Mega Camerupt, and finally we have a Mega that is outperforming the Shadow. Mega Camerupt does just barely outperform the Shadow in damage per second wise, and it probably won't be relevant in the Mega Master League, unfortunately. There are also just better alternatives for fire type raid attackers, so how important this Mega is, I'm not sure. The next assets update that we're going to look at is the introduction of the sprites for Eternatus, Zacian, and Zamazenta, both the Crowned Sword and the Crowned Shield versions. So let's hop right into the analysis on those. Eternatus does have a max form, but it doesn't look like it's going to be introduced when Eternatus originally drops. That being said, it's going to be an insanely strong pick in the Open Master League. I believe, I believe it's going to reach over 5,000 CP, similar to the, oh my god, what's it called? The Black and White Curums. So it's going to be a very strong Pokemon. So definitely worth getting this one. The Crowned Sword Zacian is actually a strict upgrade raid attacker wise. It's also going to be a top meta pick in the Open Master League, reaching I think almost like 5,200 CP or something like that, something crazy. And you're actually seeing it's using Metal Claw on the left, and because that means it's actually going to get stab on that move because it is half steel, the crowned version. So that is going to be really cool, and it's going to be just a super strong pick, both as a raid attacker and I mean, it's not going to be great as a raid attacker, but it's going to be great in the Open Master League. Unfortunately, that's not the case for the Crowned Shield version of Zamazenta. Zamazenta is just, it's just not as good. I mean, it's really close. You can see the numbers, the damage per second wise, but it will have probably some very decent play. It's going to get a similarly high CP as the Crowned Sword Zacian. It won't be as good just because of its typing, but it's still going to be really strong. It'll be a good introduction for a fighter into the meta, especially with that dual steel typing. The next assets update that we're going to look at is introducing, assuming Honedge and Doublade are already in the game files, Aegislash, both the blade and the shield version, as well as probably going to slaughter this Pyukumuku and Wishiwashi, as well as its school form. And then on the bottom there we've got Nickit and its evolution Thievul. I apologize if I butchered those names. I've actually never seen these Pokemon before, but we're going to take a look at how they are relevant, not raid attacker wise, but more PvP wise, because these Pokemon do have a lower CP cap. So the first one we're going to be looking at is Honedge. Now, this Pokemon does reach Great League eligibility. It is an XL Pokemon. It does have some decent bulk. It's moderate bulk, but unfortunately it doesn't have any coverage moves, so you're stuck with only steel type charge moves, which is kind of what's holding this back, which leaves it with an 11 and 28 record in the Open Great League, which isn't great, but that's why we're going to be looking at its evolution as well. So its first evolution, Doublade, is kind of in a similar boat. It's just a little bit too glassy to be effective in the Great League, and same deal, it has that mono steel coverage, and even though it's using Psycho Cut, which helps its pacing a tiny bit as opposed to Fury Cutter, both are non-stab. This is a steel and ghost type Pokemon, so unfortunately it's not really helping it out at all here. But now this is where it gets interesting. We're going to look at the Aegislash Shield version, and it is absurdly bulky. I mean, look at that defense stat. That is just gross. Stamina is decent too. Attack is abysmal. That is maybe one of the worst attack stats I've ever seen. That being said, for an overall stat product of 2,800, this thing is going to be one of the bulkiest things in the entire Great League. And with a moveset of Psycho Cut, Shadow Ball, and Flash Cannon, and a typing of Steel and Ghost, similar to like Goldango, this Pokemon is going to be insane. Like it's going to be so good. I'm really excited for the introduction of this Pokemon and to see how it shakes up the meta. That being said, let's take a look at the Blade version. The Blade version, unfortunately, its stats in the main games don't translate well into Go. It's just a very fast Pokemon, which means it's very attack weighted in Pokemon Go, and these are some of the worst records I have ever seen on a Pokemon. I mean, it's just way too glassy to be viable for the Great League, unfortunately, as well as the Ultra League. I believe the Shield version doesn't even reach Ultra League eligibility, so I mean, if you wanted to use this Pokemon in the Ultra League, this is the only way to do it. However, I do not recommend it. Even with a cool typing, it's just not great. The next Pokemon we're going to look at is Pyukumuku, if I'm pronouncing that right. This Pokemon is also insanely bulky. Very, very similar stat product to the Aegislash Shield version, Shield form, whatever. Very low attack, extremely high defense, and a pretty moderate stamina for an overall stat product of 2461. So that is really good. Unfortunately, this is a very heavy XL investment. That being said, it's not the greatest in the Great League. It has Counter and Miracle. These are the only two moves it has in the game files at the moment, and I think that's part of what's holding it back. With a stat product like this, it could be really good if they give it a move change in the future. So definitely hold on to these, and let's take a look at Wishiwashi. So Wishiwashi in its normal form going to be completely useless as pretty much everything. However, in its school form, this thing does get to a really high CP and might even have some Master Premier League viability. That being said, here we're looking at it in the Great League, the Ultra League, and the Master Premier League, all labeled there. Unfortunately, this Pokemon at the moment has 0 coverage moves. It's got a mono water type set of moves, which is really holding it back. And even though it does reach a pretty high CP of, I think it's like in the 3700s, it's not going to have any competition in the Open Master League just because of Kyogre. And then in the Premier, it's okay, but it doesn't have a great move set. So not the most exciting Pokemon, but a welcome addition nonetheless. The next Pokemon we're going to look at is Nickit. And this is a cool Pokemon. It is a mono dark type Pokemon, and I think it has some unique play in Little Cups. I think it's got some potential there, and you can see it in the record going 16 and 23. It's decent. I think as like a safe swap, it could be a nice addition. Get a few quick attacks ahead, and maybe you're able to flip some matchups, especially with that nice curvature there on the in the graph. I think it's definitely got some play. And now let's look at its evolution, Thievul. Once again, same moveset. It's a decent moveset. It's honestly a really cool moveset. And the stat product isn't really holding it back either. It's a very neutral stat product. Think like Sableye kind of deal. But it being a mono dark type and the meta being the way it is right now with the fighters and the fairies, I think this Pokemon is going to struggle to find play, and you can see that in the matchups. I'm surprised it's that bad, but yeah, it's bad. I mean, it's not great in the Great League or the Ultra League. In the Ultra League, it has to be a level 51 Best Buddy boosted Hundo to even be viable. So definitely not worth the investment there with its current moveset. The next assets update that we're going to look at is the addition of Kubfu and Urshifu, as well as both of its form, the Rapid Strike and the Single Strike forms. This is a legendary Pokemon, and it is a very cool design for a Pokemon, so I'm kind of excited to take a look at this one. First up, we're just going to look at Kubfu in the Great League. It's only eligible for the Great League. I think its stat product CP limit caps off at around 1800. That being said, it also has a mono fighting type moveset, which means it doesn't have great coverage, which definitely holds it back. It does have a decent moveset with counter, close combat, and brick break, but obviously there are better Pokemon that fit this niche just a little bit better. And that is kind of displayed in the record there with 14 and 25. The regular Urshifu, the mono fighting type Urshifu, we're going to take a look at in the Great League, the Ultra League, and the Master League. Obviously, you can't play it in the Master League Premier because it is a legendary Pokemon. But the normal fighting type is actually outperformed by both the single and rapid strike variants. So we're just going to take a brief look at this. Obviously, not a great record across all three. Its best record is actually in the Great League, which is kind of surprising. I think probably just because it can one-shot everything, or bait. I'm not really sure. But pretty decent there, but otherwise not so great. So taking a look at the Rapid Strike version, this is a half water, half fighting type Pokemon, but unfortunately it has no coverage moves. The best coverage moves it learned is Aqua Jet, and Aqua Jet is one of the worst moves in the game. So not really opting for that water type coverage and instead going for the mono fighting type coverage. And once again, holding back this Pokemon. It's just, once again, not really great. You can see in the Master League and the Great League, it's got like a similar record. Ultra League is horrible. And Poliwrath is just going to fit that niche better if you wanted to use a fighting and water type Pokemon. So not the best, but a cool Pokemon nonetheless. And then finally, the Single Strike variant. Now this is one that's actually interesting. In the Great League, it almost goes 50-50, 19-20, that's close. It does have some really hard losses, and I'm assuming that's to all your fairies and anything that resists both dark and fighting. And that's because this Pokemon, instead of Counter, is actually using Sucker Punch, which is a clone of what Counter was a couple seasons ago. So it's actually better than current Counter. So that is definitely benefiting this Pokemon, and even in the Ultra League, even though its battle rating is an average of below 500, it's actually got a positive win rate there, going 20-17, so really nice. And then where it absolutely shines in the Master League, this Pokemon reaches over 4,000 CP, just barely, but it does. And this Pokemon has a 22-12 record in the Open Master League. I mean, think of this thing as like a high CP Pangoro, but instead of Karate Chop, you got Sucker Punch. Like this Pokemon is really good, and I'm excited to see how it shakes up the meta, especially because we don't really have too many great fighting types in the Master League. The last assets update that we're going to look at today, I believe, is the Tinkatink, Tinkatuff, and Tinkaton family. They've got the same typing as Mawile, that Fairy Steel typing, but they're actually a little bit bulkier and can even reach a higher CP. So very exciting Pokemon. I'm very excited to see how this thing will do in the Great League because I love Mawile as is. So this Pokemon is going to be even cooler. First, I think this one would have gone over a few people's heads, or at least it would have flown under the radar a little bit, and that is its first evolution, Tinkatink, in the Open Little Cup. This is insane. I mean, 32-7 is absolutely nuts. It basically doesn't lose to anything, and its hardest loss is not even that hard of a loss. I mean, this thing is incredible. Its moveset, as you can see right there, Fairy Wind, Brutal Swing, Play Rough. I mean, that's pretty decent coverage, but I think it really shines because of its typing. That Fairy Steel typing is what makes it really unique. But this thing is just absolutely absurd, and I don't know what they're gonna have to nerf this thing, unfortunately. Otherwise, we're gonna get a Shuckle Smeargle Part 2 with this thing. The next Pokemon that we're looking at is the second evolution, or the first evolution, but the second form, and that is Tinkatuff. It has this exact same moveset, and this does require having a Hundo level 51 to reach the CP limit for the Great League. That being said, it's worth it. I mean, this is one of the Pokemon where it's actually worth it. 24-15 record in the Great League, and that is the current Great League meta right now. This thing is a beast. And I think it's definitely worth grinding. That being said, you don't have to make that grind, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. And that is because Tinkaton actually can have the exact same moveset and basically has the exact same bulk in the Great League. So you don't really have to. It's more of just a flex if you want to run Tinkatuff. Tinkatong also has the benefit of having an additional coverage move in Heavy Slam, so that is definitely going to help it out against other fairy types, as well against like ice types and rock types. Yeah, you get the deal. But it's a very similar record, 24-15, very similar battle rating. And then this also has access to the Ultra League. Its CP can be high enough for the Ultra League, and with good IVs. 21-16 record. This Pokemon is going to be an absolute beast. Very excited to see how this thing shakes up the meta. But yeah, that is a look at all of the assets updates that we've seen from the Pokemod group being added into the game files. These are most likely, like I said before, going to be seen maybe next season or even the season after. These are not guaranteed to come anytime soon, but it is exciting to see that these Pokemon have been added to the game files and what might be coming for Pokemon Go. So thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, peace.